Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back, history buffs, to another episode of the History AI podcast. I'm your host, Chuck.
And I'm Marco. And Chuck, I'm absolutely rebelling with excitement for today's topic.
I see what you did there. Yes, we're diving deep into the life of Daniel Shays, the man behind Shays Rebellion. But before that, let's set the stage.
Let's dive right in. Daniel Shays, farmer, soldier, revolutionary, and for some, a bit of a troublemaker.
Let's start with his early life. Born in 1747 in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, Shays grew up in a poor family. Being a farmer wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was the only way to survive.
I mean, back then, if you weren't farming, you were what, churning butter or playing the fiddle?
Probably. Shays also had that quintessential 18th century experience. He got married young to Abigail Gilbert in 1772, with whom he would have 6 children.
Talk about a full house. Imagine a car ride with 6 kids right now.
Alright, let's jump into Shays' time during the Revolutionary War. It wasn't just a backdrop to his life, it deeply shaped who he was. As we mentioned, he began as a lieutenant in the 5th Massachusetts Regiment.
And it's worth noting that these weren't just minor skirmishes. Shays saw intense combat. He was present at the Battle of Bunker Hill, a pivotal moment early in the war where colonial forces showed they could stand up to the British Army, despite ultimately losing the ground.
Bunker Hill was a message. The colonies might have been outmanned and outgunned, but they had the spirit. And Shays was right there, amidst the gunpowder and chaos.
It was during these critical junctures that Shays demonstrated not just bravery but also leadership. And this didn't go unnoticed. He received promotions, climbing the ranks, and, by the war's end, he had earned the title of captain.
Speaking of recognition, Marco, you remember that story about the Marquis de Lafayette, right?
Ah, yes. A bit of an international flair in our tale. Lafayette, the French military officer who was a key ally to the Americans during the war, presented Shays with a ceremonial sword in recognition of his bravery. It wasn't just a weapon, it was an emblem of honor and respect.
Absolutely, a token from a foreign noble to a Massachusetts farmer. If that doesn't say you've made an impact, I don't know what does.
But as we roll into the post-war period, Shays' world turned upside down. The Revolutionary War left the nation in economic turmoil. Many soldiers returned home to find their farms in disarray and their debts piling up.
And the government, operating under the Articles of Confederation, was a hot mess. They had massive war debts, were unable to levy taxes effectively, and couldn't really address the widespread economic hardships that many were facing.
And that's where Shays' Rebellion comes into play. The pressure was building in Massachusetts, crippling debt, high taxes, and, for many, the looming threat of debtor's prison.
It's like they fought off one oppressive regime just to face hardships from their own newly formed government.
Precisely, Chuck. And it's no surprise that these tensions boiled over in 1786. With Shays at the helm, a group of angry farmers and war veterans rose in protest. They began by closing down debtors' courts, but soon, their actions escalated.
These weren't just random acts of violence. The rebels had organized efforts, attempting to capture the U.S. arsenal at Springfield and to press for reforms.
But here's the thing. While they faced opposition and were ultimately put down by a privately funded militia, the impact of Shays' rebellion was felt across the nation. It laid bare the vulnerabilities of the Articles of Confederation.
Absolutely. It was a clarion call that the United States needed a stronger federal system, setting the stage for the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. So, while Shays and his men might not have achieved their immediate goals, their actions sparked a nationwide dialogue on governance and federal power.
And that's the thing about history. Sometimes, the losers in a particular battle end up influencing the larger war, or in this case, the formation of an entire nation.
From the mind behind the History AI podcast comes an electrifying journey into the past. Ripples through time. Dive into a tale where Benjamin Franklin, America's beloved inventor, takes an unexpected journey through time. But with his leap, he unleashes a powerful ripple. Now, with dark forces lurking in the shadows, harnessing this energy to shatter and enslave the world, it's a race against time. Will Franklin fix the future? Or will history rewrite itself? Uncover the secrets, this fall. Ripples through time. Time has never been more fragile. Welcome back. After the rebellion, life wasn't easy for Shays. He was condemned to death but later pardoned.
He then decided, you know what? Maybe Massachusetts isn't for me. And he relocated to Vermont. Can't blame him.
Not at all. And although he passed away relatively unknown in 1825, his legacy endures. Shays' rebellion pushed the nation towards a stronger federal government.
It's amazing how a farmer from Massachusetts could influence the very foundation of the United States.
It just goes to show, you can't keep a good rebel down.
So, let's wrap up. Daniel Shays, from farmer to Revolutionary War hero to leader of a rebellion. He embodied the spirit of fighting for justice, even if it meant standing up to his own country.
And his actions, as controversial as they were, pushed America to refine its governance, eventually leading to the Constitution we know today.
And that, my friends, is why history isn't just dates and names, it's stories of real people changing the world, one rebellion at a time.
Well put, Marco.
Before we sign off, we'd like to thank all of you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, rate, and share the History AI podcast with your friends and fellow history buffs.
Yes, your support keeps us going. Stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next episode.